Right, and get going. So today's session, I am going to start by talking about why we're going to be using Nearpod, or why you should use Nearpod. Then we will go on to experience a Nearpod. So we'll start out like doing a Nearpod lesson. For those of you who have never experienced one, we'll try one together. And then I'll show you how to create a Nearpod. And finally, I'll show you how Nearpod and Canvas can integrate. Why are we going to use Nearpod? So first thing I wanted to really highlight, and anything I try and think about when I think about using ed tech, is accessibility. And so some of these features that are going to be really great for our SPED and L students and early readers. The first thing is you can add audio to your slides. So I'll show you how to do that. And you can just speak over your slide just like you were speaking to students in real space. Immersive Reader, Microsoft's Immersive Reader is built in, so students have that tool they can use. Students have the ability to take notes on screen and not have to jump to a whole nother screen. So we're trying to keep kids in one space. Nearpod allows them to do that. Those notes that they take, they can save that to their Google Drive or their OneDrive really quickly. It works really well with screen readers. So Nearpod has been built to adapt well with screen readers and magnifiers. So if you have students that are using those visual enhancement features or aids, they can use those. Captions can be embedded to videos and the student can choose to watch them or not. They can embed content that is accessible. So as long as the PDF you're putting into the Nearpod is accessible, or the website or the video that you're sharing with students is accessible, students are going to be able to use those accessibility features. If the device the student's using for Nearpod, and Nearpod works really well on mobile, so if you know your student's just going to be on like even a phone, they can even do Nearpod there. As long as it has voice to text capabilities, students can then type or voice their responses into the text boxes that they might fill out. And lastly, something we often don't think about is the color schemes. The contrasting colors are the templates that they provide and stuff are good for those with visual impairments to be able to see the slides. So those are just some good accessibility things to keep in mind, that the Nearpod is providing some of those IEP accommodations built within Nearpod. It makes some of those things really easy. All right. Next, also, so there's lots of activity types within Nearpod, and they meet different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. And I found this nice image showing the different types of questions or the different types of activities and where they fall on that spectrum. So you can take a look at this further later. It's in the resource, the Wakelet. And so what I thought we would do is we would go and try a Nearpod real quick. So if you want to open a tab in your computer and go to nearpod.com, we're going to try a little Nearpod. And are there any questions so far? Any questions? You can just feel free to unmute your mic and just speak out loud. All right, so you can see on my screen, I'll be showing you the teacher end. And if you've opened a new tab and gone to nearpod.com, you're going to be doing the student end of things. So I'm going to choose to do a live lesson today. And so I'm going to launch a new lesson. So when you're on the nearpod.com page, you're going to be putting this code where it says students, and it will ask for a join code. You're going to enter that into Nearpod. And we're not going to do this whole lesson. This is just going to give you an idea of how a live lesson in Nearpod works. So in that code, you're going to be using BDLGV. And so BDLGV, and that will be the code. I see a question in the chat that says, is it accessible via Clever? Nope, not accessible via Clever, and students don't need to log in. They're really just going to put the code in, and then they're going to put their name. So students don't have accounts, which is really great. Students don't need an account for this. All right. Does everyone gotten the code? Anyone join the lesson? You'll see once I clear out the code, in the top left corner, the code always remains. So if you have those students that, you know, are a little bit behind or come in late, that code just remains in the top corner of your screen as the teacher. So you can always easily reference that. In the bottom left-hand corner, I can see all my students. I can click for a list and I can see all my students here, who's logging in and the names they put in. I can skip between my slides here. So if I wanted to skip some content, I could just zoom ahead and then put everyone on that page of the slides. And I can either show or hide student names when I share responses. So another great thing about Nearpod is that I'm in control of your screen. So when I'm choosing the live lesson, I get to choose how you move through things. So I'm going to, you can see as I move ahead, your slides will move ahead. So this was just a Nearpod I made for my staff about utilizing, doing some classroom management with digital devices. So you can see as I move ahead in the slides, you're going to be moving ahead. And then why don't you go answer this question, and then we can just see what it looks like from the teacher's side, what it's like for when the teacher sees the responses. So what are the most important procedures students have to follow in your classroom? And how do you think that will change with one-to-one devices? So if you're not already one-to-one, just kind of think about that. So go ahead and answer that question. So I can see here, I have no answers yet. So I'm just waiting for my students to type some answers. And once they do type it, I'll be able to see their name and their answer. And if I hide the student names, then they're randomized. And if I wanted to share an answer, I could just click the share button on my screen. And I'll do that in a second after I get a few more answers. And then those answers would pop up on everyone else's screen. So it's pretty cool that you can share responses. And if you hide the names, you can share them anonymously. So if it's a good response, maybe you want to share it with the name and like give accolades to that student. But maybe if it's not a correct response, you want to hide the names and share the incorrect response and be like, hey guys, what's wrong with this response? How can we correct it as a learning moment? All right, so getting some responses in, and if I wanted to share, I would just click the share button. And now on your student side, you should see that response that I shared pop up on your screen. And so that's just to show you how it would look for both ends, the teacher end and the student end. The password, Christine, is BDLGV. BDLGV, it's in the top left corner of my screen. Are there any questions at the moment? Just go ahead and unmute your mic and I will answer them.
Katie, how did you, what was the very first thing you did, I guess, that generated that student code? I'm in and I'm doing the Nearpod bit, but I don't want you to lose what you're doing, but how did you, I guess, open up Nearpod and
share that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll go back to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions about like the student experience, kind of giving an idea, and then you can also see what it's like on my side.
So if I'm looking at a graph or something, like if it's a participation percentage, how do I see it? How do I see what the students are seeing?
Do you see my screen? If you click back over to the Zoom and look at my screen. So can you see all the responses on the screen?
Yeah, so how do I see what the student is seeing? Is there a student view?
Oh yeah, so in the top right corner, I see this S and I can switch to student view. Takes a minute. Yeah, so I can now see this is what the students see, and then I can click the T in the top right corner and go back to my teacher view. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
this might be a dumb question, but so am I able to like actually talk to the students while presenting these slides? And if so, how to do that?
So you would do it in a Zoom just like this. So if
Okay, so they're going to have that split screen as well.
Yep. Or they just have like, even if it's just they have the Nearpod up on the whole screen, they would just listen to you, you know?
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. I do want to go back actually to the student screen and show you one thing. In the top right corner, you'll see a little notepad. You should see it on your screen. Does everyone see that? Like, oh, where is it? Let's see. You should see a little notepad or something that you can add notes. Does everyone see that? Or a little sidebar on your screen that you could click and then it will open up and it will like say Google Drive and you can save notes to it.
Yeah, it's on the top right corner. It's over to the side.
Yeah, so I guess I don't have that in my student view, but yeah, you can then see how students could take notes and it would automatically save to their Google Drive. So that's another nice feature, especially maybe not so much elementary level, but definitely high school level. That's a skill we try and teach students is note taking. So that's good.
Do the notes only save to a Google Drive? Like we're a OneDrive school. Could it be configured with Microsoft?
Yeah, it saves to OneDrive and via email too.
Okay, thanks.
If everyone's looking at my screen or the Zoom right now, you can see in the top right corner, I have on my teacher view, add activity. So if I'm going through this Nearpod that I made and things aren't going so well, like I'm like, oh, wow, that they really need to review, we need to review this concept. I can, in the moment, add an activity that would then be on the next slide. So if there's something you left out as you were planning or just on the fly, you want to do something, you can easily add that. In the chat, Taryn, it says, how does this look on a cell phone or versus PC? For the student, it looks virtually the same, but they may not have on the phone, they may not have the note-taking feature. Yeah, but it's very, very similar. It's very mobile friendly.
Yeah, the note-taking feature is still there.
Oh, it is. Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. So now you've kind of had the student experience. I'm not going to belabor this too much. So why don't we close out of this? I'm going to leave this session. Yes. And going back to that question about how did I get that code? So in my Nearpod library, I'm going to see all of my lessons. So you guys can close that tab that you were in and let's just be back on my screen with the Zoom. So here in my Nearpod lessons, when I hover over a lesson, I have the choice to do a live lesson, which is what I just did with you, or a student self-paced lesson, which is what you would do probably most often in a remote setting. You know, if you, depending on the time, maybe you're, you know, you want to have the students do this part on their own, like the content, and then come to you for your Zoom meeting for help with their grammar or writing their lab paper or, you know, doing some type of experiment together. So to start a live lesson or student self-paced, I would just click the button and that produces the code. You can see I already like started 2 different classrooms, so I could do a whole new code for a different period of the class. Like if you're a high school and you have different periods of the day, you could have different codes for each period. So that's how I start a lesson. Any questions about the student experience now that you've had it? All right, I'm going to start then showing you how to make a Nearpod lesson. So you actually have 2 options. So if you're a Google school, you can, in your Google Slides, there is an add-on called Nearpod, and you can open the Nearpod add-on. And if you already have like a Google slide presentation that you've used, that's great. And you can edit this lesson because this is one I've already made. You can add all of the Nearpod activities right here within Google Slides and then save that. I know most of us probably, many of us are OneDrive schools, so we're gonna have those PowerPoints that we've been using for years and refining over the years. So, you know, we've invested a lot of time in those PowerPoints. And so Nearpod does not mean that you get rid of those PowerPoints. It means you utilize them and you add activities to them. So to create your own, you're going to click Lesson in Nearpod. And you already have that PowerPoint you've made, so you're just going to upload that PowerPoint. So I'm going to upload it from my computer. You can see, import it from Google Drive or your OneDrive, and it will pull that in. But I just downloaded a little PowerPoint today to just show you an example. So it will take a minute for it to process, and then you'll be able to add all the different types of activities. So there's kind of two categories of activities. There's kind of content that students can experience, like VR tours and PhET simulations. And then there's activities like questions that they can actually answer and you can get formative data on. Smart notebook files, no, it cannot work with that. So just PowerPoints and Google Slides. So you can see it's now populating all of my slides here. And if I click between any two slides, I can add content or I can add an activity. So kind of let me talk to you about the different contents. So if I add content, that's again just something students are going to experience, not something they're necessarily going to respond in. So you can add, if your school has vocabulary, you can add those, Nearpod 3D, PhET simulations. So if you're a science teacher, PhET or math teacher, PhET simulations are great. Field trips, those can be like 360 field trips. Those look really good on an iPad that has the gyroscope, and when they move it around, they actually are like, they're there. There's the Desmos graphing calculator. So if you're a math teacher, they can add that. PVC video, sway files, a photo slideshow, so you can add several photos to make a slideshow. You can add video, audio, PDF viewer, Twitter stream, or any website. So web content would be a whole website. They basically get pushed into that website, which is nice. If you're wanting to get student responses to things, you have these choices. So time to climb is kind of like a Kahoot activity, and that the students are kind of competing with each other. Open-ended questions are what you experienced. You just type in the answer. Matching pairs is like a matching game. So that would be really good for vocabulary, putting a picture and then a word, and they are matching those things. Great for foreign language or world languages or L students, or early English learners or early readers. Quizzes, of course, different types of quizzes. You can now integrate Flipgrid, and so students can do student response right within Nearpod. Draw It, that is really great for math because students can just write on their screen, especially if they have an iPad, it's nice. It's just a whiteboard, they can write their answer. You can see their math process. Collaborate, so that's kind of like a Padlet where everyone puts their Post-it on a noteboard. A poll, so that's again kind of like a multiple choice question that you're going to share the responses with the class, but not, you know, it's not actually like a graded type question. Fill in the blank, and then a memory test. So those are all the activities that you can add. I'll just show how adding a quiz goes. So if I put quiz, I'm going to go into this screen. And I'll be able to add my question. You can see I can add a media to go with that question. And on any answer, I can just type in the answer and add that. You'll see that I have this little pi symbol. You can see that you can add math text, some basic math text there, all those different functions. Yeah, so then I would just add the question. You can see I can also add a timer, like how much time students have to complete that activity, which could be really important if you are doing the self-paced option. And then I can just add either more answers or add another question. And so I can really customize the content. Any questions about that? Adding content, activities, or et cetera? All right.
Katie, there was a question in the chat about converting Smart to PDF. Would it work to upload it to Nearpod?
Yeah, if you can, you can upload a PDF for sure. So yeah, you can add that. I also want to show you, so if I can go into my slide, say I want to do this self-paced, you can see at the bottom that I can add audio. So I can now do that read aloud portion for those that need it. Or if this is even an AP class, if I just want to speak over my slides and, you know, all 30 of my kids can do their, you know, get the presentation at a different time, still get my voice and still get the flow of the presentation that I want, then that's a great tool. So I just click audio. You can either upload a file if you've already recorded something or just record it right into the page. So I'm gonna record. Let's see if it's doing it. Oh, here I go. Recording, student password resets. Then I can play it. I don't know if you could hear, I could hear it in my headphone. And then I just save. And now the audio is associated with that slide. And then I would just save and exit. I'm happy with this, how this slide is now. And so students, when they get to that slide, if they're self-paced, or even if it's live, they could listen to that. So that's another great way to add that accommodation feature, or also just for the remote learning option. Any questions?
I have a question. I'm a complete newbie to Nearpod. I had no idea even what it was, but can you explain to me what the benefit of this would be versus just using the Canvas platform? I see it's way more interactive, but having the kids leave Canvas to go to Nearpod, what do you see as the benefits and the usages of it?
You're not going to have a kid leave Nearpod. So I'm going to show you in a minute how to embed this into Canvas. So you'll actually, like, the student will be in the Canvas screen and they can actually do the Nearpod. They don't have to leave at all, which is pretty nice. So the benefit to this is just, it has more question types. It integrates, like in the quizzes in Canvas, it's just the quiz. This integrates like content with questions, like on different pages. So kids can kind of do an all-in-one experience here. Does that help? Okay.
Katie, if I have a PowerPoint lesson and I've already inserted audio into each slide, if I then move that into Nearpod, will the audio stay with the PowerPoint?
I don't know. I don't know. I've never done that before.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta
yeah.
play with that this week. Okay.
Yeah. You can also see that I can convert any slide to a drawlet. So maybe if I had like a map of America and I wanted them to label the states or circle a state, I could just pick this slide and say convert to drawlet, and then the student would be able to draw and do anything on that slide that I wanted them to do with their finger or mouse. So that's another great feature. So once I'm done making my Nearpod, I just save and exit, and it will be located in my library.
Katie, if you ask the kids to draw on a slide, as the teacher, how do you see that? Do you see 32 different slideshows?
Yep, you see on your screen where I saw like the teacher answers to what you typed, I would see 30 boxes and I would see them drawing in real time. It's pretty awesome.
It's
if
not
it was a live lesson. If it was a non-live lesson, then you would see their responses separately.
So it will be saved somewhere for you as a teacher.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll be saved. I'll show you in just a second the Canvas integration and how that would look. Any other questions? All right, so if your school does have a premium Nearpod, I just wanted to show you that your school actually gets like 3 packs that are pre-made lessons of, well, you have access actually to a whole Nearpod lesson library. And there's tons of Nearpod partners. So this is a great place to start if your school has the paid option to start looking for some pre-made topics. So here we got fine arts, and then you can sort it even by grade level. And these are just like ready to use lessons that you can do. But if your school also pays, so you get all those lessons, and you also get 3 packs of things. And my school, we picked digital citizenship and literacy, college and career, and socio-emotional learning. And those are a whole nother set of lessons that you can use. Like for instance, our guidance counselors or our counseling department uses the college and career, and the social emotional learning stuff often with the classes that they go into. And those are pre-made for them, which is really nice. What was the next thing I wanted to show? All right, so if I have, I guess the next step is Canvas. So any questions before I move on about making a lesson or giving a lesson?
Yeah. No, never mind. Never mind.
You're good?
I can't articulate it right now. It'll come to me later.
Okay.
Hi, Katie. It's Teresa. My
Hi.
was screaming. So how did you get to the created content again? I missed how you actually got there.
It's just, if you press on this home, the My Library, everything that you've created will be here.
I knew it was something easy. Thanks.
Yeah. And you can see you can even have folders. So I have folders of lessons and so on. Yes.
Can one take pre-made lessons and just work on modifying that?
You definitely can. Yes.
Okay. Because I know
So
there are
if you don't have a premium account, you might have to pay for those lessons that you want. But if your school has a premium account, you have access to almost everything in the Nearpod.
Yeah, because I've always used the pre-made lessons, but now, it'll be good to tweak maybe a pre-made lesson, so.
Yeah, exactly. Take out a question, add a question, etc.
Perfect.
Yeah. And you would do that, like if this is a pre-made lesson right here, I would just edit, and then I could make that my own. So if you pull pre-made lesson in, you just click that button and
edit. Okay.
Yep, in the bottom left corner when you hover over.
Okay.
You'll also see if you make a lesson, you can share it with a teacher. So if you have a colleague, you can share that lesson with them. You can duplicate it. You can add it to your school library if your school has a premium account, and then everyone maybe in your CLT can use it, which is nice. And also you can export this as a PDF. You can save the whole thing. Obviously it won't be interactive as a PDF, but you could just save it. So if you did have like that student that you need to provide a paper copy to, you can export the PDF and print out that PDF, and it would be all the slides and all the questions. And then the reports, after students do a lesson, you'll have all the reports there, and you can, the last option is delete. Delete.
Katie, what are the other benefits of Nearpod Premium?
So the Nearpod Premium is like the shared school library, and the main thing for remote is that student self-paced. Like you can't do student self-paced with a free account. You can only do live lessons. Also, you can do way more students in a live lesson. I think the limit in a live lesson for the free account is 50, and in the premium account, it's like a couple hundred. So for instance, I do gym classes as the ITC. I go and do digital citizenship lessons, and I can do like all the freshmen in period 1 together. So if you were to use this for like school assembly type things, you can do more students that way. All right, so I'm going to show you any other questions before I move on to the Canvas piece. Okay, I'm going to show you what I would do if, let's see. If I'm doing a live lesson with kids on Zoom, I'll just have them open Nearpod and go to the code, because they'll have Nearpod in one screen and the Zoom in another tab, and they'll just kind of be listening to you as you go through, but they'll be looking at their Nearpod. But if I wanted to put a student self-paced lesson in, I have 2 options. So maybe I'm a teacher and I'm just paying for a Nearpod account for myself. So if your school does not have the premium Nearpod, but you've decided, hey, Nearpod is going to be essential for me, I'm going to spend I guess like $100 maybe for the teacher premium version. If I just want premium for myself, then I'll have the student self-paced version. So I would click student self-paced, and I would click where it says embed down here at the bottom. And then I'm going to get that embed code, but I want to make it large because I want it to take as much of the Canvas screen as I can. And I can requires student submissions, and I can pick a date, so the due date for that self-paced lesson. And then I can copy this code in the embed section, and I'm going to paste that over in Canvas. So again, this is for the teacher who's decided, hey, my school doesn't have Nearpod Premium, but I think this is going to be invaluable for my remote instruction. I'm going to pay for this because it might make my life a lot easier. It might make my students' lives a lot easier. Yeah, so that's what this would be for. So you click the self-paste, and then you're going to copy that embed code. Is everyone with me so far? We're good? I'm going to copy this, and now I'm going to go over to Canvas, and I'm going to make an assignment. And practice assignment. And then over here in the bottom right-hand corner, I'm going to click that HTML editor, and this is where I'm going to paste the code. And then when I switch back, you'll see that the Nearpod is embedded right into the page. Then I can make all of my settings about the assignment and then save. And when the student goes to it, it would look just like this. So they'll actually have it right here on their screen. They'll put their name in. You can see the option for taking notes is there. So they don't need to go anywhere outside of Canvas. It will all just happen right there. So that's, again, if for the teacher that buys their own premium account. Any questions about that?
Why doesn't the county provide us with the premium account? Seems really unfair if some schools have it and some schools don't.
Site-based management.
It's terrible.
So
in Canvas, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say in Canvas where the apps are, Nearpod is an app too that you can add. So then you don't need to do the embed code. You can go straight through there and pull up your library and embed it.
Yeah, you can as well. I didn't want to show that because that's actually what, if your school has the account, they would do that.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to show how to make the assignment if you do that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. All right. So that's the one way. The second way is if you do have it as your school has an account, your ITC, and I put a link in the Wakelet as to if your school has an account, the directions you can give your ITC to add the LTI stuff. So here I would just delete this and say, do this Nearpod, all right? And if my school has an account and my ITC's installed the LTI, I would go down to submission type and I would pick external tool. I would click find, and then you're gonna look through all your external tools and you're gonna look for Nearpod. You're gonna click on Nearpod. And you're gonna look for your lesson that you want to do. So I'm gonna say this one. I'll click select, and now I can see that Nearpod link is here. And if I say save, then you'll see it's right here in the screen. Now, the difference between just embedding it and doing it this way with the LTI is when you do it this way, you will see student responses in SpeedGrader. If you just embedded it, you would have to then go into Nearpod and look at those reports. But when I do it with the LTI external tool, I will get in-screen SpeedGrader a report for each individual student. So I can look over all of their answers, and then I will be able to just easily put in a grade and submit their grade for this assignment. So that's definitely the benefit of having like the school account and using the LTI feature. You can, as a teacher, if you are paying for the premium, you can do the LTI at your own level too. So any questions about that?
Katie, real quick, is the Wakelet just the Make It Work ITC's website for the Wakelet?
Yeah, it's makeitwork.itcsforall.com. And that has all the resources from today.
Gotcha, thanks.
Yeah.
Could you actually put that in the chat again? Sorry, I missed what it was.
Yep. There we go. All right. Any questions about Nearpod? I think I covered everything I planned to. Let me make sure. Yep. Okay. So again, this is not a session that is in the ERO, but we have made a little certificate. So if you want to get your attendance, you can collect these certificates and submit them to your admin. And if they want to give you, you know, PD for this, then you can do that. So thank you so much for coming today. I'm going to stop the recording, but I will take any questions.